this. Okay. It's amazing. All right. Okay. We are recording. We are live, and we are hopefully on Facebook. Hello, everybody. Happy first Monday of summer, right? First Monday of summer.
Yes, summer solstice.
And it feels like summer out there, although actually it's pretty nice right now. But anyway, I'm here with Marla Barch with Cross Country Mortgage. Marla and I have known each other. We were discussing this earlier for at least 7 or 8 years, and perhaps even longer. We've done a lot of deals over the years. We've really focused more on renovation loans and investor loans, but that's kind of shifting a little bit because of the changes in the market. So we want to go into those changes and talk about what's been happening with the real estate market since the pandemic. I think that it'll be surprising what I have to share. So did you want to talk a little bit about the renovation loans, Marla? Or?
No, I think you're right that we've just seen a little bit of a decline in them. Unless it's a major renovation project, if the property needs a gut rehab, then of course we're still offering them. But if someone just wants to do, a cosmetic update or, upgrade the kitchen or the bathroom, typically a lot of people have just been buying the house with a regular conventional or FHA loan, and then after closing getting different financing for renovation. Part of the reason for that is just because the market is so competitive. If you're submitting an offer and someone else submits an offer and the seller is comparing those, they're typically not going to pick the one with the renovation loan because it takes longer, there's more risk of it falling through, it's more of a headache. So if it's a competitive situation, like I said, most people have just been going in with a regular offer, get the deal locked down, close, and then there's other options to finance the renovation. But again, if it's a larger renovation project, a gut rehab or something of that nature, then of course, we're still definitely doing renovation loans in those cases.
Yeah. If it's a property that wouldn't otherwise qualify for financing, I think it's a totally appropriate product. And I know.
Right. If it's not livable, then your options are renovation loans or cash. And,
Yeah.
So then it makes sense, and the seller's usually more open to it.
And even if investors have the cash, a lot of times they want to hang on to it. They don't want to spend all their cash. But anyway.
Right. If they can get the deal. Right. So right. Because if it's competitive, then
Right. Okay. Let me go to my screen share here, and you tell me and make that I'm doing it right. And let's see here. So let me start with the weekly snapshot from, this is our MLS service. They update these. Actually, this is actually updated since we were on this earlier today, Marla.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they update it every Monday. And is it big enough, or do I need to make it full screen?
I can see it. Yeah, I think it looks fine.
Okay, good. All right, so this, I might make it full screen for my own benefit.
Also, we should mention, if people have questions, we are monitoring the question box. So if you have a question, drop it in the comments and we'll address it.
Yeah, drop it in the chat box. We're keeping an eye on that, and we'll answer your questions as we go along. So the green bars are the 2019 closings, and the blue bars are the 2020 closing, and this updates every week. And what's interesting, these are closings, which is actually kind of a lagging indicator because a deal goes under contract and 30, 60, 90 days later it closes. But I think it gives you a nice indication of, we actually had more closings in February of 19 than we did in 2020 than we did in 19. But you also have to remember that what were we experiencing in January and February of 19? The polar vortex.
Remember that.
Yeah. So there were a lot of people out real estate shopping back in January and February of 19. This next chart shows the properties that have gone under contract. And this is actually more of a real-time indicator. And what I find fascinating about this graph is that you can see here where we were locked down. Things just crashed. We started out, we were having a very brisk spring market better than the 19 spring market. And then the coronavirus hit, and what happened? You know, our market just died. But what's really interesting about that is if you fast forward here to where we are now, we are exceeding the 2019 contracts by quite a bit. So I think what this shows us is that we basically have postponed our spring market to summer. We're going to have our spring market in summer instead of in the spring this year.
Agreed. Yeah, all those people that weren't buying at the end of March and April there where you see the low point, they
Right.
still needed to buy. They just waited a couple months. So now we have this overflow of buyers. Yep.
Right. Well, and you know, I think the other thing too is that this being sheltered in place and trapped inside your home for the last 3 months has created a lot of people, when you're at work, you know, 10, 12, 15 hours a day, and basically you just come home to eat and sleep, eat dinner and sleep, then you're willing to put up with a lot more than when you're there 24/7 and you're working at home and you know, whatever. So I think,
And needing the space to work at home. People who didn't have home offices, now it's taking up, you know, half of their living room or dining room. And so, yeah, people reconsidering their living space if this, we don't know when, you know, things will really get back to full normal.
right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. If ever, I mean, well, obviously we're going to have a new normal, I think, right?
Yeah.
So these are the new listings that have come on. And again, you can see that we had a nice spring market in 19 and 20. The listings, you know, a lot of sellers aren't willing to have people come into their homes yet. They're not feeling comfortable about strangers coming into their home. But, you know, that's changing, obviously. People are looking to make changes. These are the rented listings. And I think it shows pretty much the same kind of curves but look how that's come roaring back the end of May.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's interesting too. Then these show all of the properties that are actively on the market. And then the black, that's the sky blue bar. The black bar shows us where sellers have temporarily pulled their property off market for whatever reason. And you can see before the shelter in place, we were at about 2,600 properties that had gone temporarily off market. As soon as we went into shelter in place, it jumped up double almost to 5,000. But now look, that has come back down. Look at how many properties are actively on the market. People are coming back into the market. They're putting them back on for showings. So yeah, it is definitely starting to come back. And of course, the realtor's favorite marketing strategy, open houses. Look how those have skyrocketed in the last 3 weeks. It's just pretty amazing, really. I mean, yeah, it's kind of amazing.
And these charts are just the Chicagoland area, right? Just northern Illinois.
Well, it's our entire MLS. So yeah, so basically, really northeastern Illinois, I would say.
But it's not national, so this doesn't take into account like other states that opened up sooner. This is just our area. That's a lot of open houses.
Just Illinois, northeastern Illinois. The Chicagoland suburbs, really. But it's then this chart shows us the showings, the number of showings that have been on property. So the navy blue line is, again, 2019, and the gold line is this year, 2020. And of course, when we, you know, sheltered in place, you know, the showings dropped dramatically, but it has really come roaring back too.
Yeah, we're higher than we were before, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, here we had a little dip with, you know, the protests around. But here it's come back, and this is Father's Day, I guess, Sunday, Friday.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Father's Day weekend. People want to stay home and Mother's Day weekend, people get out and look at houses.
Yeah.
Father's Day weekend, not so much.
I think that tells you a lot about which gender is more interested in buying the next house.
Right? So funny fact there. And again, this is a great graph too, because it shows our median sales price. And as you can see, values have held. I mean, there has not been a decline in value. I think a lot of buyers have this misconception that that it's a buyer's market and they can come in at a crazy low price because sellers are desperate, and that is in fact not the case. And then this again is the rentals. Same thing is true across the board with the rental market. So you know, it's been kind of an amazing thing. Now this info sparks, you can see this, right, Marla?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, great. So this, I actually changed this a little bit too from when we were talking earlier, Marla. I went back 10 years because I thought it would give a better indication of the trend. This is for the whole Chicagoland metro area. And back, you can see here, this is the crash of, you know, when our market bottomed out after the Great Recession. This is the Great Recession. But
and so this is, just to clarify, we're looking at average home sale prices,
median sales price of single family homes.
Okay.
Whether it's a freestanding or a condo, you know, whatever, all single family, you know, single family, as opposed to multifamily.
Okay.
So, and these little data points give us every month. So September of 19, the median sales price was $245. It's now right at $250, and it has been holding at $250 throughout this whole period.
That's amazing. Who would have thought, if we asked you a year ago, if we said there's going to be a pandemic, would you guess home values are going to go up or down? Who would have guessed values are going to continue going up in a pandemic? That's insane.
Right. Well, who could have predicted a pandemic? Right. but yeah, if one could have predicted and you were asked, yeah, for sure, right? Again, this is showing median market time, and it goes back 10 years, but I mean, you know, the same trend is, you know, right now that our market times are running right, you know, maybe they've gone up a couple of days, but
again, that's from the day it's listed till the day it's under contract, right?
From the day that it's listed until the day it goes under contract. Not
that looks pretty good to me. Like under contract about a month or so. That's not bad.
I mean, yeah. So yeah, exactly. I mean, these are and look back here before the, you know, during the Great Recession, you know, 100.
Taking more than 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember the good old days, sarcasm.
And then finally, another indicator, whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, we look at months supply of inventory. And the rule of thumb in the industry is if it's more than 6 months supply, you've got a buyer's market. If it's less than 6 months supply, you've got a seller's market. And we have been in a seller's market since, what is that, July of 13.
13, yeah.
And
it's getting worse, yeah.
Here's June of 18.
And so just to break this down a little bit more for the viewers, basic economics, you have supply and demand. If you have, you know, very few of whatever you're selling and you have a lot of buyers, they're going to fight over it, right? And so that's exactly what we see here, and that's the opposite. So at the tail end of the last recession, there were a lot of homes for sale and not a lot of people wanting to buy, you know, and so the buyers could have the pick of the litter. The sellers were desperate to sell. They would negotiate and you could lowball prices. But in the seller's market, it's the exact opposite. For every house that comes available, that's, you know, a nice house that's reasonably priced, you know, you easily have, you know, tons of buyers competing. And so when you have people competing, they're bidding up the price. And you often, I'm sure you've seen, Mary, you could talk a little bit more about it, but what's called multiple offer situations where you get multiple people bidding and then the seller comes back and says, okay, give us your highest and best offer. Right. You know, people get put in that position where they have to pay more than ideally they'd like to pay, but that's kind of what's needed to get a house in this market nowadays.
Right, exactly. Right, exactly. I mean, you know, just from my own personal experience, we moved, we put our property on the market in January, and we had, I had 3 showings. Out of those 3 showings, as soon as I hit the market, I had 3 showings. I had 2 full price offers, and we accepted one of them and closed on it. So yeah, it was.
Yeah, that was the same happened to me last year. So it's still a seller's market. That hasn't changed since last year. Last year, oh, I can't remember what month it was, maybe June or July. I listed a property and we put it on the market Friday, and by Monday we had 3 offers. And I don't remember if it was full price or very close to it. But that hasn't changed. A lot of people assume, like you said before, that because there's a pandemic, because we're in a recession, that values would have gone down. And a lot of people expect that, and that's just not the case. The values keep going up, and you know, you can't lowball. You're not going to get deals that way right now.
I changed this chart from 10 years to 1 year, and you can see, I mean, this range is from 3.75 months to 4. So basically the month supply of inventory has not really changed significantly in the last year. So, but I think we've kind of made our point, and we don't need to belabor the point. I'm going to skip over the compass graph. I mean, do you think? I don't know. Well, actually, there is something interesting on here that I do want to show. In the last 30 days, we've had 13,500 new listings come on the market. This is, again, is all of Chicagoland. Out of that 13,500, 14,000 properties have gone under contract. So we've actually put more properties under contract than we've brought onto the market.
And is that typical? I mean, this is not a chart I always follow, but is that not something you typically, I would expect you wouldn't see that in a normal market, right?
No, exactly. Right.
So it just means that it's very fast paced. As soon as properties come on the market, they're getting snapped up.
Well, it means that month supply of inventory is probably going to be going down because we're getting more properties under contract than are coming to market.
Sorry about that. That's my house.
We got those family members we have to deal with.
Yeah, and he's very excited about the real estate market. So anytime I talk about real estate, he gets
That's
okay, so in addition to the real estate part of the market, we also want to look at the mortgage part because it all interrelates. So this first chart here shows mortgage rates from 1971 to 2019. And this particular chart is Freddie Mac, which is a conventional loan. So it's just an average of those rates. Rates will, of course, vary depending on the loan program, the person's credit score, different factors like that. But what you can see in 1971, it started out around 7%. Of course, early 80s, it went up to 18%, which there are definitely horror stories that we hear from our parents and grandparents about that. And then in 2019, it came down to very, very low levels, around 3.75. And then if we skip to the next chart that shows this year, so the beginning of this year, we started at that 3.75 and it's continued to go down. So again, this is an average. It's not exactly the rate everyone's going to qualify for depending on the program and whatnot. But you can see on this average, rates are in the low 3s. And they've literally never been that low in all of history. So when you hear people saying low rates, it just sounds like marketing, but it really is true that it is the lowest rates ever in history. And rates impact your cost of buying a home way more than the actual purchase price of the home. So for instance, if we're looking at a 1% difference in rate, like if you were buying last year at 4%, and let's say you can buy this year at 3%, that 1% difference in rate, that will increase your purchasing power approximately $9,000 per $100,000 of purchase price. So if you were to, for instance, purchase a home for $300,000, that would give you an extra $27,000 of purchasing power at the same monthly payment. So you can buy a $327,000 house instead of a $300,000 house at the same purchase price. So it just increases how much house you can get and get a nicer house than you would have at that lower price. Or the flip of that is that you can have a lower monthly payment. So if you're looking at the exact same purchase price from a 4% rate versus a 3% rate, it's about $45 a month per $100,000 of purchase price. So again, if it's a $300,000 purchase, you're looking at saving almost $150 a month, like $135 a month, because of the lower rate. So that lower rate is very impactful, and over the life of the loan will save tens of thousands of dollars. And that, I think, is the big reason people are out shopping, because they see that opportunity. And even though there's a pandemic and a recession, they see, oh my gosh, these rates are so low, you know, I'm going to have the opportunity to buy the house that I couldn't before, that I was on the cusp of being able to qualify for, and just save so much money that they can now put into retirement, or, you know, kids' college savings funds, or wherever else they want to allocate money and still have the nice house.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you bring up a good point about the, you know, the, yeah, we are officially in a recession, but we are not in the recession that we were in 2008, which
Oh, absolutely not.
I think the important point about the Great Recession of 2008 is that that actually was caused by the real estate industry.
Yes.
Whereas this recession, obviously.
Well, real estate and mortgage and Wall Street, but real estate related, right? So a lot of people only have in their memory as a history that particular recession. So when they think of recessions, they think of the Great Recessions. And so when they hear about future recessions or the current one we're in, they expect it to behave the same. But historically, if you look at all the prior recessions before the Great Recessions, the majority of them did not affect the housing market. Housing values did not decline during those recessions. And the reason the Great Recession was different was because we were in a housing bubble. So basically what had happened is the housing values increased way higher than they were actually worth. And then we hit the recession and then they decreased. So what happened is when people got into financial hardship, they wanted to sell their homes and they couldn't because they were at that point underwater. They had bought the house for more than it was worth, and now the loan they have is higher than they could sell the house for. So they can't sell their house. And so therefore it resulted in foreclosures, short sales, things like that. So in this case, not only do we not have a housing bubble, we have the majority of Americans have plenty of equity in their home. And so therefore, if you hit a financial hardship and you decide you can't afford your mortgage, you can simply sell your home as a regular sale. You don't need to do a foreclosure or a short sale or those things that damage the housing market. And so therefore, if people have hardships and they just do a regular sale, not only will it not hurt the market, it will actually help the market because it's providing more inventory for people to buy. So yeah, so it's very different than the last recession, but it's very similar to every recession before that, that the housing market, people think recession and they think all areas of the economy will suffer. And that's not necessarily true. We have unemployment is low, and so certain things will be affected by that, but housing is not necessarily one of those things that's tied to a recession.
Well, and I think you bring up a good point too. I mean, yes, unemployment numbers are definitely high, but I think that those numbers also relate to very specific industries like the hospitality industry. And
yeah.
Will it have a ripple effect? No doubt it will. But there's plenty of people that are completely secure in their jobs who want to take advantage of this market, to take advantage of those low interest rates. And as we said earlier, people are reevaluating their lives and looking to make changes. So.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and it's the combination of both pieces. You've got the interest rates low, you've got purchase prices not necessarily low, not going down, but they're on the way up. So if you catch them now versus if you wait 2 years till they go up, right, it'll be even more expensive. So we think interest rates will stay low for a good period of time, because partly because of market drivers, because basically when there's bad news, whether it's economic news, political news, internationally, domestically, bad news in general is good for mortgage rates. So partly because of the market, but also partly because the Federal Reserve is artificially influencing the market. They are buying treasuries, they're buying bonds, and that's pushing rates down even further. And they have said they intend to continue to do that through, I think the last one I heard was maybe 2022. So they are going to keep rates low so that the effects of the recession aren't as bad as they otherwise would have been. So it's great that the rates will stay low, but if the housing prices go up, it's still going to make it more expensive to buy a house in a couple of years. So that combination of the lower purchase price and the lower interest rate is the best combination to get a good deal. And that's what you're seeing right now, and that's why you're seeing such an influx of buyers out in the market.
Right, right. Marla, we're coming up on our 30 minutes, and we promised to keep this at. Do we have any questions that we've?
I don't see any questions in the box. People can obviously reach out to us afterwards. I also wanted to mention that it's a great time for sellers because of all the demand with buyers. You know, people who are trying to sell are you know, selling very quickly and at good prices. So that's another thing to think about. If you're thinking of buying or selling and you're not really sure, you should know that the first part of the process, there's no commitment, no obligation, no cost. Mary and I will just give a free consultation to let you know what would you qualify for, what could you sell your house for, what could you buy a house for, and then you'll have the information you need to decide if you want to move forward. So if you're thinking about it but not committed yet, still reach out and we're happy to help you with that. And Mary's information is obviously on the page, and I'll drop mine in the comments below as well.
Awesome, great. Good, good. Well, thank you so much, Marla. I think this has been great. I've enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed having you on it. And let's plan to do this again next month.
Sounds great. Yeah, I look forward to next month's charts. That's amazing. Those charts thank you so much.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
All right, bye.